My name is Amira. I was born in Riyadh into one of the most powerful families in Saudi Arabia. To the world, I had everything. Palaces, jewels, luxury cars, designer clothes, and servants at my beck and call. But what I didn't have was freedom. This is my story, and I'm telling it because somewhere in the world, there might be someone who needs to hear that they're not alone. I remember the exact moment I realized I was a prisoner. I was 7 years old, standing at the golden gates of our palace, watching my brothers climb into a car to go to the cinema. I asked my mother if I could go too. She smiled sadly and said, "Girls don't go to such places, Habibi. Come, let's look at your new dresses." That day, I learned that my gender determined my boundaries, and those boundaries were the walls around me. Growing up in a royal household meant I had the finest education money could buy, but only within our palace walls. Private tutors came from Oxford, Cambridge, and the Sorbonne. I learned 5 languages fluently: Arabic, English, French, Spanish, and Mandarin. I studied mathematics, science, literature, and art. My mind was free to explore the entire world through books, but my body was confined to marble floors and gilded cages. My daily routine was rigid and unchanging. I woke at dawn for prayers, then breakfast with my mother and sisters in the women's quarters. The men ate separately, always. After breakfast, lessons until noon. Lunch, then rest during the hottest hours. More lessons in the afternoon, followed by time in the women's gardens, a beautiful space, but still surrounded by high walls. Dinner was served at 8, and by 10, I was expected to be in my quarters. The palace itself was magnificent, I won't deny that. My bedroom was larger than most people's homes. I had a bathroom made entirely of Italian marble with gold fixtures. My closet was the size of a boutique, filled with couture gowns I had nowhere to wear. I had everything except what mattered most, the right to choose. When I was 12, I discovered the internet. It changed everything. Through a tablet I wasn't supposed to have, I saw how other girls my age lived. I watched them skateboarding in California, studying in libraries in London, playing soccer in Brazil, dancing freely in the streets of Tokyo. I saw young women laughing with boys, choosing their own clothes, going to universities, working in offices, traveling alone. Each image was a window into a life I could never have. I began to question everything. Why couldn't I leave the palace without a male guardian? Why was my brother, who was younger than me, allowed to study abroad while I couldn't even go to a local cafe? Why did I need permission to see a doctor? Why would my future husband be chosen for me? The questions haunted me, but I knew better than to ask them aloud. My teenage years were the most painful. While my mind matured and my dreams grew larger, my world seemed to shrink. I watched my younger brother Khalid receive a new sports car for his 16th birthday and drive off with his friends. For my 16th birthday, I received a diamond necklace worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was beautiful, but it might as well have been a chain. I tried to find joy in the small freedoms I had. I loved reading, devouring books about strong women who changed history. I read about Cleopatra, Joan of Arc, Marie Curie, Amelia Earhart, Malala Yousafzai. Their stories gave me hope, but they also made my cage feel smaller. I studied computer science secretly, teaching myself to code in my room late at night. Technology became my escape, my window to a world I couldn't physically reach. When I turned 18, my father informed me that he had found a suitable husband for me. I had never met the man. He was 43 years old, a distant cousin, a successful businessman with 2 other wives already. I would be his third. The wedding was set for 6 months away. I felt my heart shatter into 1,000 pieces. I begged my mother to help me. She held me while I cried, but she said something that still haunts me. "This is our way, Amira. I went through this. Your grandmother went through this, and generations before us. You will learn to accept it. but I didn't want to accept it. I wanted to live. That night, I made a decision that would change my life forever. I decided to escape. I knew it was dangerous. Women who ran away from royal families often disappeared or were forced back into even worse situations. But staying felt like a death sentence for my soul. I would rather risk everything than live a life that wasn't mine. Planning my escape took months. I had to be meticulous. I secretly saved money from the allowance my father gave me. I made contact through encrypted messages with organizations that helped women in my situation. I studied the palace security patterns, memorizing guard rotations and surveillance camera positions. Every detail mattered because I would only have one chance. The hardest part wasn't the planning. It was pretending everything was normal. I had to attend wedding preparations, smile at dress fittings, nod politely when my future husband's family visited. Inside, I was dying. But outside, I had to be the obedient princess everyone expected. The emotional toll was crushing. I lost weight, couldn't sleep, and developed anxiety that made my hands shake. I confided in only one person, my younger sister Layla. She was 15 and still believed in fairy tales and happy endings. When I told her my plan, she cried and begged me not to go. "What if something happens to you?" she sobbed. "What if I never see you again?" Those words almost broke my resolve, but I held firm. I told her, "If I stay, you'll see me, but you won't see me alive. You'll see a ghost living in a body. I need to do this, not just for me, but to show you that another life is possible." The night of my escape arrived during Ramadan, when security was slightly more relaxed due to the late-night prayers and gatherings. I wore simple clothes, covered my face with a niqab. Ironically, the very garment that symbolized my oppression became my disguise for freedom. I carried nothing but a small bag with documents, cash, and a burner phone. My heart was pounding so hard I thought the guards would hear it. I walked through the palace corridors like I had 1,000 times before, but this time every step felt weighted with terror and hope. I used a servant's exit I had studied for months, timing it perfectly between guard rotations. The moment I stepped outside those walls, I felt my legs trembling so violently I could barely walk. A car was waiting 2 blocks away, arranged by the organization helping me. Those 2 blocks felt like 2 miles. Every shadow looked like a guard, every sound like an alarm. I kept my head down, walked steadily, and prayed to Allah that I would make it. When I finally reached the car and the door closed behind me, I broke down completely. Months of fear, pain, and hope poured out in tears. The escape itself was elaborate. We drove to Jeddah, where I boarded a cargo ship hidden in a container. Yes, like you see in movies. Except it was terrifying and real. I spent 3 days in that container with minimal food and water, hearing the ocean waves and wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. The organization had bribed officials and crew members, but there were no guarantees. I could have been discovered at any moment. When we finally reached Turkey, I could barely walk. My legs had cramped from being in that confined space for so long. But I had made it. I had escaped. For the first time in my life, I was in a country where I could walk without a guardian, where I could make my own choices. I cried tears of joy and relief. The organization helped me apply for asylum in Canada. The process took 8 months. 8 months of living in hiding, using a false name, always looking over my shoulder. My family had reported me missing, and I knew they had resources to find me. I lived in constant fear that one day I would be found and forced back. I had nightmares about being dragged back to Saudi Arabia, about facing my father's rage, about the punishment that awaited runaways. During those 8 months, I worked odd jobs to support myself, cleaning offices, washing dishes in restaurants, tutoring children in English. It was hard physical labor, and I made in a week what I used to spend on a single handbag. But every dollar I earned felt precious because I had earned it with my own hands, my own choices. I was poor, scared, and uncertain about the future, but I was free. When my asylum was finally approved, I felt reborn. I flew to Toronto on a cold November day. I had never seen snow before. It had always been something I read about in books or saw in movies. When I stepped off the plane and saw the white flakes falling from the sky, I stood there with my face turned up, letting them melt on my skin. It sounds silly, but in that moment, I felt truly alive for the first time. Starting over was harder than I ever imagined. I had money, education, and languages, but I didn't have something crucial: life experience. I didn't know how to take a bus, open a bank account, or rent an apartment. Simple things that people take for granted were mysterious to me. I had gone from a palace with servants to a tiny studio apartment where I had to learn to cook, clean, and take care of myself. I enrolled in university to study computer science formally, sitting in a classroom with men and women, participating in discussions, working on group projects. It was exhilarating and terrifying. I had to learn social norms I never experienced. How close should you stand when talking to someone? Is it okay to laugh loudly? Can you disagree with a professor? Every interaction was a learning experience. The loneliness was overwhelming at times. I missed my mother, my sisters, even the parts of my culture I loved. The food, the music, the poetry, the warmth of family gatherings. I had to rebuild my identity from scratch. Who was Amira without her royal title, without her family, without her wealth? I had to discover who I was beyond the princess I was born to be. I also had to deal with guilt. I had escaped, but what about the women I left behind? My sisters, my cousins, my mother. They were still trapped. I had saved myself. But at what cost? Did my freedom come at the price of their suffering? My father was furious about my disappearance. Through indirect channels, I learned that security around the palace had tripled, and my sisters had even less freedom than before. Therapy became essential. I was diagnosed with PTSD and complex anxiety. The trauma of living as a prisoner for 18 years, the terror of escape, and the adjustment to a completely new life had taken a toll on my mental health. I learned that freedom isn't just about physical location. It's also about healing the wounds left by captivity. Some nights, I would wake up in a panic, thinking I was back in my palace room, that the escape had been a dream. But slowly, I began to heal. I made friends, real friends who liked me for who I was, not for my title or wealth. I went on my first date, my first movie in a theater, my first concert. I got my driver's license and bought a used car. These might sound like small things, but for me, each was a victory. I was living the life I had only dreamed about. I graduated with honors in computer science and got a job at a tech company. My first paycheck felt like the most valuable thing I had ever received. I had earned it through my own work, my own skills. I wasn't given money because of my family name. I earned it because I was good at what I did. That feeling of accomplishment is something no amount of royal wealth could ever buy. 3 years after my escape, I started using my voice to help others. I began speaking anonymously about women's rights in Saudi Arabia, sharing my story on podcasts and at human rights conferences. It was dangerous. I still used a pseudonym and disguised my voice, but I felt compelled to speak for those who couldn't. If my story could help even one woman find the courage to seek freedom, it would be worth the risk. I've also been able to reconnect with Layla, my younger sister, through secure channels. She's 19 now, and she tells me about her life. She's engaged to be married soon, to a man she's met twice. She says she's okay with it, that she's accepted her fate. But I hear the sadness in her voice. I've offered to help her escape if she ever wants to, but she's too afraid. I understand. Not everyone can make the choice I made, and I don't judge her for it. My mother knows I'm alive and safe, though we can't communicate openly. Through Layla, she sent me a message once. I'm glad you flew away, my little bird. I wish I had your courage. Those words meant everything to me. My mother couldn't escape her cage, but knowing that she was proud of me for escaping mine gave me peace. Living in freedom also means confronting difficult truths. I've had to accept that I may never see my family again. I may never attend my sister's weddings, hold their children, or sit with my mother over tea. I traded one life for another, and there were costs. Some days, the price feels too high. Other days, I wake up, look out my window at the city below, and know that I made the right choice. I've also learned that freedom comes with responsibility. I had to learn to make good choices, to face the consequences of my decisions, to navigate a world without the safety net of wealth and status. I've made mistakes, dated the wrong people, trusted the wrong friends, made poor financial decisions. But those mistakes were mine to make, and that's the point. My life is mine now. I still struggle with my identity. I'm Saudi, but I can never return home. I'm Canadian, but I'll always be an outsider in some ways. I'm a former princess, but that title means nothing here. I'm building a new identity. Amira the survivor, Amira the advocate, Amira the woman who chose herself when the world told her she had no choice. Sometimes people ask me if I regret leaving everything behind. The wealth, the comfort, the security. My answer is always the same. I didn't leave everything behind. I left behind a prison that happened to be decorated with gold. What I gained, agency, autonomy, the right to choose, is worth more than all the palaces in the world. I want to be clear about something. I don't hate Saudi Arabia or my culture. I love the beauty of Arabic poetry, the richness of our traditions, the warmth of our hospitality. What I couldn't accept was a system that treated me as less than human because of my gender. Culture and oppression are not the same thing, and we must learn to separate the two. My message to other women who feel trapped, whether in Saudi Arabia or anywhere else in the world, is this. Your life belongs to you, not to your father, not to your husband, not to your society. You. It might take tremendous courage to claim that life, and the path might be dangerous and difficult. But you deserve to be free. You deserve to make your own choices, to pursue your own dreams, to live on your own terms. I also want to speak to those who have the power to help. If you're in a position of privilege, use it to support women fighting for freedom. Donate to organizations that help women escape oppressive situations. Speak up for women's rights. Don't turn a blind eye because it's uncomfortable or because it's their culture. Basic human rights transcend culture. Looking back at the girl I was, the princess standing at the golden gates, watching her brothers drive away, I wish I could tell her that one day she would drive her own car, go wherever she wanted, be whomever she chose to be. I wish I could tell her that the pain would be worth it, that freedom was possible, that she was stronger than she knew. Today, I live in a small apartment in Toronto. I have a job I love, friends who care about me, and a life that's entirely my own. I take the subway to work, grab coffee at my favorite cafe, go for walks in the park, attend concerts, travel when I can save enough money. These ordinary freedoms are my greatest treasures. I still have hard days. I still miss my family. I still have nightmares about being caught and dragged back. I still struggle with anxiety and trust issues. Freedom doesn't mean the absence of struggle. It means the right to face your struggles on your own terms. This year, on the anniversary of my escape, I did something symbolic. I bought a small bird from a pet store and released it in the park. As I watched it fly away into the open sky, I cried, for the girl I was, for the woman I've become, for all the women still trapped in golden cages around the world. That bird's flight was my flight. Its freedom was my freedom. To anyone reading this who feels trapped, I see you. I was you. And I'm here to tell you that another life is possible. It won't be easy, and I can't promise you won't face hardship. But I can promise you this. Living a difficult life in freedom is better than living a comfortable life in chains. My name is Amira. I was a Saudi princess who had everything but freedom. Now I'm a woman who has little but owns everything that matters. My life, my choices, my future. And that is worth more than all the kingdoms in the world. This is my story, and I'm telling it so that you know. You are not alone. Freedom is possible, and you are worth fighting for.